Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Local Film Talk. As always, I'm your host, Bob Walters, and it's just going to be me this week. I don't have any guests. This is going to be our end of the year episode. A lot of shows will probably be doing that next week or the week after, but I'm going to be out of town next week, and I actually do have an interview scheduled for the last Monday of December. So I thought I'd go ahead and knock this out now because I had a couple things that I wanted to talk about from this past year and what we've got coming up. And this seemed like as good a time as any to go ahead and knock that out. So without further ado, I thought we'd talk about some of the stuff that happened over the last year. Thank you guys for all your support in helping make the show get better and better. If you remember, we've been doing this for, let's see, 2 years maybe? The pilot episode came out in February of 2013, and we started doing the shows regularly in June of 2013, if I remember correctly. So we've been doing them pretty steadily for about a year and a half, which is really awesome. That's a long time to keep going, a long time to have new episodes coming, and the best part is that the topic is nowhere near exhausted. Local films, local productions, people have always got stuff going on, new things to talk about. I just keep finding new topics to hit. I meet new people who have stuff they want to talk about. So we've gotten a lot of stuff in the can, and there seems to be even more coming. So I'm really excited for what the future holds. Believe it or not, we've done, I believe this is episode 70 now. I'll go ahead and number this episode, even though we're not interviewing anyone. I had never really numbered the episodes before because I thought it made the titles look all cluttered, Local Film Talk number 35, I thought it was too much. But I decided to go ahead and number the episodes partially for my own curiosity to find out just how many we'd done, because I wasn't keeping count. and also partially because one of the things Google doesn't do too well when I'm looking at the Local Film Talk YouTube channel, and I can see all the videos we've done, even the ones that aren't public, YouTube doesn't do a very good job of separating the public videos from the unlisted ones from the private ones. So I had this huge cluttered database of videos, and I had to sit there and look at each one and see, okay, no, that's not a released one. That's just a recording of an interview we did that I then added the titles to and turned into an episode. So those two are actually one. And it was just hard to keep count of. So I decided, one night I got the inclination to go and actually number all the episodes. And it turned out that this is probably about 2 weeks ago. So I think we had 68 episodes. Last week was 69 and this is 70. So we're actually not all that far away from number 100, only about, I was going to say 6 months, but then somebody would do the math and say, you idiot, you can't do math. 30 episodes away, a little over half a year. And that's a pretty exciting prospect. Sometime this coming summer, we should hit 100 episodes. Like I said, easily, because there's no shortage of topics coming up. So that's an exciting milestone. Thank you to everybody who has helped us get this far, and hopefully everyone else who will help us keep going to episode 100 and beyond. It's always a little... I always feel like it's ambitious when you start numbering episodes, and in order to keep them in order, you have to put zeros in front of the digits. And I went ahead and I put 2 zeros in front of the first one, indicating that we were going to get to at least 100 episodes, and it looks like we're going to do it. So I'm pretty jazzed about that. That's going to be an exciting milestone to pass. What were some other interesting things that happened this year? The episodes have gotten longer. For anyone who hasn't noticed, I don't know how you couldn't. They've gotten considerably longer. Originally, we were doing these things, in-person interviews. There was a crew, there was microphones and lights and 2 cameras shooting and everything. We had to find locations, and it was a big enough endeavor that I couldn't afford to do. I really wanted to have a weekly episode, but I couldn't. I didn't have the time or the resources to shoot and edit one of those things every week. So what we were having to do was shoot a 1 hour interview and then break it up into little chunks, 6, 7, 8, 10 minute chunks. And they never really felt like complete episodes, but that's what we had to do in order to be able to have an episode to share every week. Well, I finally got more acquainted with streaming services. I knew a lot of people who used Skype, but there is a barrier to entry to that. And some people that we talk to aren't all that tech savvy. So I have to tell them, all right, you got to download this software and set this up and associate a number and then add to a contact list and all that stuff. That was a few more steps than some people were willing to do. And then I found Google Hangouts. And Google Hangouts, it turns out, is dead simple. All I have to do is send you a link and you click on it and you're signed in. It's brilliantly simple. Everyone can do it. The other nice thing about Google Hangouts is that the Google software will detect whose microphone the audio is coming from at that time and go ahead and cut. So they go ahead and do the editing for me. So I've really been able to slack off on the extra work on these episodes. But what that really means is I'm able to focus on setting up a new interview for you guys every week and making sure that it's a good one, it's a complete one, you get the whole conversation. And so hopefully you guys have been liking these longer episodes more. I know it's not as conducive to viewing on YouTube, but we do have the podcast. Which, 30 to 45-minute episodes, I think works out pretty good for a podcast if you're jogging or on a commute or something. So I hope you guys have been liking that. Feel free to send us some feedback and let me know what you think. But personally, I'm happy, keeping the length of it out of the conversation. I'm happy to be able to give you guys a full conversation every week that completely covers the topic from beginning to end, whether it's a specific issue or somebody's backstory on how they got into the industry, or just discussing a particular film. To be able to get that whole conversation in one interview, in one episode, and get that out to you guys, I think makes a better show. And I hope you feel the same. I hope you're enjoying it. Speaking of the podcast, it took me a long time because I'm not an expert on RSS feeds. In fact, I'm pretty damn stupid when it comes to RSS feeds. But I had some technical difficulties submitting the RSS feed for Local Film Talk to iTunes back in the day, and I was never able to straighten it out, and then I would get busy and wasn't able to address it for a while. But about a month or two ago, I was finally able to sit down and figure out what was wrong and resubmit the podcast to iTunes, and this time they took it. So finally, Local Film Talk, the podcast, is available on iTunes. And if you go and search for it, you can find it, of course. I've started including the link to that in all the show notes for the YouTube videos. And when you look at the post on Triangle Life TV, you can find it there too. But I'm really excited to have the show on iTunes. It's been something that's been frustrating me for a while. And I know that iTunes is the biggest marketplace for podcasts. So to finally have that out in the most visible spot, I think is really cool. I've been able to see the numbers of subscriptions slowly climbing ever since that happened, and hopefully that'll continue to happen. The numbers have been improving slowly all over the place. Like I said, the podcast subscriptions are going up, the YouTube subscriptions are going up, the views per episode are going up and getting more consistent. So the audience is growing, which is nice. Makes it feel like people are actually enjoying what I'm doing, and that's a nice feeling. Makes me want to keep doing more stuff. So let me cross things off, make sure I'm keeping everything straight here. Did that. What else have we done this past year? We did our first live episode at Film Spark back in September, the 10th annual SparkCon, also 10th annual Film Spark Festival. We did a live episode of Local Film Talk. It was a Q&A with a couple different filmmakers, Michael Howard, Eric Pruitt, Michael Babbitt, and Michael Ray Williams. Were all there to discuss 4 different films that they screened at the Museum of History in downtown Raleigh. as part of Film Spark. That was our first time doing a live show. I had 4 people on stage at once, and I gotta say, I was scared shitless, but I think it turned out really well. Looking at the tape later on and editing the thing, it was a massive episode. I mean, it was 4 freaking interviews. Um, it turned out to be a little over an hour, but I think it went really well, especially for a first episode. And I'm looking forward to doing more live episodes. That's something we're working on. I can talk more about that later when we get to stuff coming up for next year. But I just wanted to say again, thank you to everyone involved in Film Spark, everybody at the Museum of History in downtown Raleigh, Conrad Arnold, who organized the whole festival and who also came on. Conrad doesn't like to be on camera, and Conrad came on our show a few weeks before SparkCon to talk about Film Spark. And I really appreciate him doing that, because I know that's not something he normally does. And to sit down in front of a camera, which I know he wasn't the most comfortable with, but I think he had fun. Hopefully I can get him on again for something in the future, maybe for next year's Film Spark. But I really appreciate his support there. Other people from SparkCon came on. Their support was huge. Other directors and people who were showing their stuff in the festival, and especially, the 4 I mentioned, the 3 Michaels and Eric, who worked with me on that live episode. That was really awesome, and obviously couldn't have done it without them. But that was a great first step, and hopefully we'll get to do more of those for you guys in the future. Speaking of festivals, the Carboro Film Festival was a couple weeks ago in mid-November, and I had the opportunity to cover that. I didn't do anything on stage. I wasn't involved in any of the programming, but I did get offered the opportunity to cover that. I got a couple Q&As with people whose films were shown, and I also got to cover a couple workshops. So again, that's something I'll address a little more in the what's coming up stuff, because I got a couple episodes out of that. Actually, some of the stuff I'm working on editing right now, rather than interviewing somebody and just sitting here babbling to myself and to the internet, into the microphone. But that was a really cool experience, going to the Carboro Film Festival, and I have to thank the head of that festival, Nick Beery, for offering me that opportunity, and also for coming on the show and talking to us about that. But it was nice to be able to go to a different festival. I don't really get to go to a lot of film festivals. I'd never been to the Carboro Film Festival before, and it was a really neat experience to go to that one. They had a really cool venue, and they had a nice setup, and everything just went really smoothly, and I look forward to going back to that one next year. And I had such a great experience that it also makes me want to try to go to other festivals. So if anybody out there is interested in independent film, or just the stuff that other people are doing, it's not always great, but it's always interesting, and people are trying different stuff, and it's great to go and see the different ideas that people have, and trying crazy things when they're not strapped with a huge budget and forced to try to find the biggest market possible. Sometimes people left to their own devices will try some stranger stuff, and it's always interesting to see those kinds of things. And that's what you find at film festivals. I saw a lot of that at the Carboro Film Festival, and I'm looking forward to trying to discover more of that stuff in film festivals around the area in the future. So, excuse me. So, Carboro Film Festival, the first one that I covered without participating in, that was about a month ago. What else did we do this year? Last week, I tried something a little new. I gave you guys a bonus episode. We've always worked really hard to focus on local stuff on this show, but that doesn't necessarily mean I don't have anything to say about mainstream films. And I have friends, and there are other people in the community. Obviously, people see mainstream movies and they have thoughts about it. But I'm not really interested in talking about, there will be plenty of people. This is, it's currently December 14th, 2015. in 3 days, Star Wars The Force Awakens comes out, and I can promise you there will be thousands upon thousands upon thousands of podcasts and web series and TV shows and radio shows and everybody you can imagine giving their 2 cents on that movie. And I see no reason for this show to participate in, just general, current release, reviewing movies, that kind of thing. Like I said, there's plenty of other people doing that. I'm sure they're doing it better than I could ever possibly hope to. So by all means, go check out those shows for that kind of discussion. If I'm going to discuss something mainstream, I want to find something, either a little more off the beaten path or a different angle. And that's what happened with this episode last week. A friend of mine, and you can see all this in the episode, it's obviously available on the YouTube channel and also on the podcast. But a friend of mine had an interesting take on Batman Begins, Christopher Nolan's first Batman movie. And I thought about it and thought about it. And I said, that's kind of that's not one you hear. That's not an opinion you hear very often. It goes against the mainstream thinking. That would be interesting to talk about. So we did that. We recorded a conversation. Specifically, it was about how Batman Begins, in his opinion, and now in mine, now that I've had a chance to go back and rewatch it, is the best of Christopher Nolan's Batman movies. Generally, The Dark Knight is considered the best. The two of us think that it's Batman Begins. And so we had a conversation about this. And that was probably a month and a half ago. And I finally put it out this past Friday. And that is hopefully the beginning of something else we'll continue to do more of, is some bonus content. Specifically, if there's some mainstream stuff that I think we have an interesting angle on, we'll try to talk about that. But bonus content in general is something I'd like to get a little more into. And we can talk about that when we get into the future stuff. I guess to bridge from the past to the future, since this kind of concerns that Batman Begins episode, I'm calling at least for now, I'm calling the mainstream episodes Float the Mainstream. I had to come up with something, and that was the only thing that came to mind. So we'll stick with it. We'll pound it into people's heads, see how it goes. But I ran into, switching gears into the future stuff, I ran into an issue with that first Float the Mainstream episode a couple days ago, which I hadn't really... It brought to the forefront a problem that I never imagined I would have. But now that it's happened, I really, it's something that I know I have to address. And, I always want to be transparent and share what's going on. And I'll just give you guys the real brief version of it right now. I think this is actually the kind of thing that I'll do a whole episode on sometime in the future, really get into the details of it, get a couple other people who have had a similar problem, and see if we can really dig down into it. But the short version of what happened was I decided to put this episode out as bonus content this past Friday. And so I uploaded it on Thursday night around 9:30. I got a confirmation email from YouTube saying that the episode had been successfully uploaded. An hour later, I get an email from YouTube saying that the episode has been flagged by a user and has been taken down. This is, like I said, only an hour later at about 10:30. So if you go and watch the episode, spoiler alert, the episode was cleared on appeal, and it's available. It's back up and it's available now, so you can go and check it out. But if you do go and check that episode out, you'll see that it's very similar to our other episodes that we do via Google Hangout. It was just a conversation I was having with my friend Scott, two talking heads talking into their webcams via Google Hangout. There's no images, clips, sounds, or anything from the movie, no copyrighted material. It's the same original content that we always have with all our stuff. It followed the same format. There was nothing in there that warranted a takedown. There were no, and again, I can go into this in a future episode. And you can go and look at YouTube's community guidelines too. You know, the kind of stuff you can get taken down for is nudity, making threats, copyright violations, you know, all sorts of stuff. And I knew none of that stuff was in there, but the video was taken down. Again, almost immediately after being put up. And I don't know exactly how this happened or, you know, what the procedure was that they followed, but the video was down. And I learned really quickly that I had extremely limited options with what to do about it. And not just that, but the ramifications of having a video taken down for a violation of the community guidelines were pretty far reaching, especially for this show. So again, to keep it pretty simple, the only thing you can do if you've ever tried to deal with YouTube or Google before, you can't get up with anybody. There is no phone number, no email address, no customer support, no nothing. They do not want you contacting them at all. And after I got this email about the takedown, I went and I looked at the community guidelines, read everything through thoroughly to make sure that, you know, as far as I knew, I was in the right. I couldn't go back and look at the video again or the notes I'd put on it or the tags or anything because they had blocked me from getting into the video. So I didn't even have the ability to go back and figure out what I had done wrong. The only thing I could do is they give you a little link that says, I want to appeal this. And what that is it gives you a little text field that's limited to about 150 characters, and you have that space to type in your reasoning for why you think they should reconsider taking down your video, and you hit submit. And once you've done that, that is literally all you can do. It is completely out of your hands at that point. There are no other actions you can take. You have no other recourses. You are strictly left up to, as according to their what the community guideline says. Once you submit an appeal, a Google staff member will take a look at the appeal. Then they'll look at the video, and they will decide if the takedown is warranted or if the appeal is correct, and either leave the video taken down and the other ramifications of such stay in place, or if they're going to repeal it. And that's it. That's all you can do is sit around and wait for that to happen. And, you know, I had hoped that since the takedown was so swift, within an hour of the video getting posted, you would hope that the appeals process would go quickly too. But I had to wait 4 days, 4 whole days, until just this morning I got an email from YouTube saying that they had reviewed the video, decided that it didn't violate the community guidelines, and they had gone ahead and reposted it. And that was it. Not as swift as I would have hoped. You would hope that the going over the appeal would go at least as fast as the takedown, but that was not the case. And what happened with the video wasn't really the big problem. Annoying, to be sure, and again, I can go into those details later on. But the big problem was the other ramifications for the channel. When one of your videos gets taken down for a violation like that, a violation of the community guidelines or copyright or whatever, there are a couple other effects it has on your channel. For one, your channel gets marked as being in bad standing. And a couple of the side effects of this are they won't let you add custom thumbnails to your videos, which seems a little weird and arbitrary. And that can be hurtful for a channel that wants to be taken seriously and professionally. Studies have shown that having a custom thumbnail really differentiates in people's minds professional content from amateur content. And people who see a thumbnail that's just a random screen grab that Google put there from pulling out of the video, people look at that and think, oh, somebody uploaded a cat video that they took with their iPhone, as opposed to a custom thumbnail with, you know, graphics and text and everything. And somebody says, oh, this is a legit thing. It actually has a measurable effect. So that's a downside. The other big one, which specifically is a big problem for this channel, is that you're not allowed to live stream. when your account is has a strike against it for violating the content guidelines. And that's a real big problem for a show that's done via Google Hangouts, because I use, like I said, Google Hangouts, specifically Hangouts on Air. And what that does is when you're having a Google Hangout with someone, it sends the feed over to YouTube via your live stream and records it on YouTube. And so that's where it's saving the video of my interviews. That's where this video is being saved right now on YouTube, going through my live stream. And in fact, there's somebody watching right now. They are watching my live stream. Hello, whoever you are. Thank you for listening to my ramblings. That's the only way that I can record a Google Hangout. And as long as my account is in bad standing, I can't do that. So there's no way for me to do these interviews. They have basically cut the legs out from under my channel. I'm like the Black Knight in Monty Python and the Holy Grail, with no arms and no legs, sitting there going, no, I can still do this. It's just a flesh wound. I'll still get this done. It ain't gonna happen. And how long does this last, you might ask? According to the Google terms of service, and according to the notifications I was getting about the suspension and everything, if they did not overturn the appeal, this stays in effect for 6 months. I would not be able to do an interview for 6 months using this channel. I'd have had to use one of my alternate channels in order to do it. And again, there is nothing I can do about it. There is no one I can contact at Google, no customer service number or anything. I had to wait for them to getting around to the appeals process whenever they did, and hope that they made the decision I wanted. And so I said long story short. I'm sure that wasn't short at all. But basically what it boils down to is I realize that I can't depend on YouTube solely in the future for hosting the videos online. I'm going to have to figure out some other system, some other kind of backup. I think what I'm going to have to start doing is dual uploading to YouTube and Vimeo. Two things I'll have to do. One, I'll have to start, rather than trying to send people to the YouTube video, I need to start sending them to the local Film Talk page on Triangle Life TV. And then I'll probably dual upload to YouTube and Vimeo, so that way in the future, when you go to the local Film Talk page on Triangle Life TV, usually the YouTube video is embedded in there. And in the future, if a YouTube video gets taken down, I can just swap it out with a Vimeo episode right there. And, that way I don't lose a step, because we put out this bonus episode, and I was really hoping it was going to get a lot of traction, since it was about a mainstream film and everything. It should be opened up to a broader audience, not just people who are interested in the local film scene here. And by not having the video on YouTube, by not being able to send people to a page that they knew and trusted, like YouTube, I was left for 4 days having to send people to iTunes telling them to download the podcast. And it's a lot harder. You get a much smaller turnover of people who will go and subscribe to your podcast and listen to that episode than will go and click on a YouTube video. So the video was hurt that way. Now, again, like I said, it's a mainstream episode. I'm sure over time the numbers will bounce back, and it'll just be a blip on the radar. But at the end of the day, it was a wake-up call that Google is not the most, or YouTube, I keep saying Google, YouTube is not the most reliable business partner. I'm completely at their whims, and things could completely go belly up at any moment. If they held that suspension and I'm on probation for 6 months, anything in that next 6 months, that's strike 2. And I think once strike 2 happens, you're not allowed to upload anything for 6 months. You just got a stagnant channel. And then you're really in trouble. So anyways, That was a problem I ran into. Like I said, even though this particular situation resolved itself, it opened my eyes to a bigger ongoing problem that I'm going to have to deal with in the future. Like I said, probably dual uploading to Vimeo and YouTube. At least for the time being, that's my solution. If anybody out there has any suggestions, I'm all ears. But that's something, that was a bit of a sour note on the year. Interestingly enough, happening right before I was going to record this episode. But like I said, I'll get into it all in more detail in the future. I'll do an episode where I get some other people who have had some issues with takedowns with YouTube, and we'll sit down and hash it out and see if maybe we can't share our experiences and give you guys some suggestions for how we found to deal with it. Help you guys out with the stuff that you try to upload. So, anyways. Now that we are moving into the future, let's talk more positively. Let's talk about the other stuff that I'm hoping to do in the coming year with Local Film Talk. Get some water. So, first of all, in the most immediate of futures, like I said, we have the first Float the Mainstream episode. That's the first episode of our bonus content, which you can go and check out now. I'd like to do more bonus content like that. If there's more mainstream conversations we can have, we'll try to get that out. Like I said earlier, I covered the Carboro Film Festival, and I'm going to start... I'd like to do some more festival coverage, but I don't think those will be regular numbered episodes. I think that'll be bonus content. I probably got 7 or 8 episodes out of this Carboro Film Festival, and I think I'll set that up as its own thing. Here are the Carboro Film Festival episodes. They're not regular numbered episodes. They won't be the episodes that come out on Tuesday morning. They'll come out at other times and be, little extras for you guys. And hopefully we can cover more festivals. And get more stuff like that. Like I said, hopefully some more mainstream stuff. I've done a few set visits in the past. I want to put those together. I've been sitting on them for a long time, not really sure how I wanted to put them out. And now that I've come up with this idea for bonus content, I think I'll put out set visit episodes as bonus content as well. So like if you go to the YouTube page, I'll have a whole playlist of set visit episodes, and you can go and check those out. But I'm hoping to do more of those. Go out and actually show you guys what some of these actual productions that we're interviewing people about look like, boots on the ground style. I think that would be a lot of fun. I should probably be crossing these off as I talk about them. More live shows. The live shows, like at at the Film Spark this past year, were a lot of fun and went really well. There are screenings that happen around town every now and then, and I'd like to start doing some live Q&As after those. So hopefully we can start doing some more episodes, combining these interviews with screenings, and maybe do some Q&As with the audience, and, get some more live stuff going on. I think that would be a lot of fun for everybody. Topical discussions would also be something fun to do, not just interviewing people about the movies that got coming out. Not that that's not fun or anything, but issues come up. People have things that they want to talk about. For instance, this whole issue I had with YouTube, and I've talked to plenty of people who've had issues with takedowns due to perceived copyright infringements for a song that, they actually did have written permission to get rights to the song for, and for whatever reason the video keeps getting taken down by the YouTube bot. So, get some of those people together to sit down and discuss that issue. And there's other issues that I've talked to people about within the filmmaking world that I think could make interesting topics, educational stuff to help you figure out how to navigate the scene. So we'll try to do some more of those. More discussions. So yeah, those are some of the things we want to do for next year. I guess the last thing is not going to be so much content wise, but a little bit about our setup. I'm sure you guys love looking at my office, my pet snakes over there. And, occasionally when I forget to close the door, my bathrobe hanging up on the door. You can go back and find some old episodes where you can see all that clutter lying around. But I'm actually going to be building myself a little backdrop over here in the coming weeks. I got some time off around Christmas, and I'm actually going to build a little backdrop that I can put up and break down whenever I need to record one of these things. And then you guys don't have to look at the messiness of the room. Hopefully, that'll make this look a little more professional. I'll have some foam on there so it'll dampen the sound and everything. And, that should be cool. I like building stuff. I don't get to do it very often, but when I do, it's a lot of fun. So I'm looking forward to putting that together and see what you guys think when it's finally up. I think that'll be pretty neat. And another thing that I'm trying to do for in the future is try to figure out a setup where I can actually get other people to come in here. I've had people express an interest to actually come into the studio, quote unquote, and do the interviews one-on-one. I know it can be easier, and you can get a little more banter going on when people are in the same room. So I'm trying to work on some kind of multi-camera setup for next year. That is probably the most tentative of all the stuff I've mentioned. Everything else is, it's all kind of a work in progress, but it's more or less going to happen in case, unless everything goes, completely crazy. This is the only one that I'm just kind of speculating on right now, and I'm not really sure how I'm going to do it. But, hopefully I can figure out something, get a couple cameras, maybe another microphone in here. And so, if somebody wants to actually come in and chat, we can go ahead and do that. And that'd be pretty cool. That'd be a little more of a legit studio setup, I think. So, but anyways, that's pretty much it. I think I've rambled long enough, but that is my plans for the future, as well as some of our accomplishments over the past year. As you can see, we've come a long way since we started. And, if you're not sure, just go back and look at some of those very early episodes and compare those to what we got now. A year and a half ago, I could not have run my mouth this long without freaking out. I've never been really excited about being in front of the camera, and when we first started doing this, I was absolutely petrified about it. But you got to get out there and do it. Practice makes perfect, and I'm far from perfect, but I'm getting a lot better at it now than I was before. And I hope to continue getting better at it, over the next 30 episodes till we hit episode 100, and then even beyond there. So I hope you guys will continue to join me for these episodes. Like I said, I'm going to be out of town next week, so there won't be a new interview episode, but I am going to try to put out a couple of those Carboro Film Festival episodes, so you guys have something to keep you going. We'll be back with a new interview at the end of December, and then hopefully a lot of cool stuff coming up in the beginning of 2016. So stick around. It's going to be a lot of fun. That's pretty much it for now. If you guys have any thoughts on anything I've said, any of my crazy ramblings, you can always send me feedback, email at localfilmtalk@gmail.com. Hit us up on Twitter at @localfilmtalk. Keep up with new stuff coming out. You can subscribe to the YouTube channel, subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, and that's pretty much it. And of course, the Local Film Talk page on Triangle Life TV. Always keeping that going. So anyways, that's it for right now. I will see you guys again before New Year, but not before Christmas. So you guys have Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, all that good stuff. And just a generally safe and happy holidays. So take care, and I will see you in a few weeks.